Welcome to the MLB show on the Solder on Sports Podcast Network, live on YouTube and X on Solder on Sports on X and Total Apex Media. It is great to be back. What a week it has been. Our last show for the MLB was before Game 3 on Monday at 6 o'clock. So basically a work day later, the game was over.
Three games, 36 innings, 4 games worth of innings later.
Dude, just unbelievable. Here we are. Jays up 3-2, heading back home to Toronto, or Toronto, as I tried to practice my enunciation. But that's been a really hot topic. I don't know if you've mentioned that or not, but it's been a hot topic with the American media. I had no idea it was Toronto. No one pronounces the T's. Very interesting. But anyway, that's been a very hot topic. But anyway, Jays up 3-2, heading back to Toronto for Game 6 tomorrow night, Halloween. And before I throw out our sponsors, before I throw out my hellos to you and let all the good people know how you're doing, I just got to throw a shout out to my wife, dude. I have to do it. I've done it a couple times already. Hockey season starts beginning of October. Of course, I cover the NHL. Football is in its almost done its second month. And the Blue Jays go on this insane run. Not only has my wife had to pick up, let's be real. She already carries the family when it comes to parenting, but she has to do it even more. Not only all of that, every single night, something sports related is going on, or I'm doing this podcast, or I'm writing, or I'm doing something. Tomorrow's her birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
And so, yeah, absolutely. But a part of me feels bad, dude. Like, she has to put up with so much sports, and then the Toronto Blue Jays have the chance to win the World Series on her birthday. So we'll be at her parents'. We'll have dinner with her family, some of my family, and then at 8 o'clock, we're all headed to the man cave. I don't know if it's still appropriate to call it that in 2025, but we'll be going to the man cave, and the birthday celebration will be over at 8 o'clock sharp. So shout out to her, the best wife in the world, who has to put up with my shenanigans even more now than before. But once again, this is the MLB show on the Solder on Sports Podcast Network, brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Right now, promo code SPORTS10 for up to 10% off a selected card or every card in the First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off selected cards, which means with our promo code, you get up to 60% off selected cards in the First Round Collectibles store. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com, promo code SPORTS10 for up to 60% off your order, 10% off of every card, and up to 60% off selected cards. And by Total Apex Sports, Total Apex Media, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, anything you want to know, they have you covered, whether it's about the games, the players, sports betting, fantasy, DFS, all of it, they have you covered. They have another website, Total Apex Media. They talk health, fitness, lifestyle. They talk pop culture, video games, TV shows, anything you want to know in that realm, they have you covered there as well. So Total Apex Sports, Total Apex Media, always a big shout out to them for having us on board. Tom, what a week it's been, brother. How you feeling? How you doing on a baseball Thursday? Finally a day off. We get to rest up a little bit for what's going to be an insane weekend one way or the other.
Yeah, it has been a long week. I think we're not the only two people feeling that.
No.
But yeah, it's a day off is nice. You know, the last time we talked on Monday, we talked about how after 2 games, the series was really close. Those two games didn't look the scores in those games didn't do justice to how close those games actually were. right on cue, Game 3. I think that did justice to how closely matched these two teams are. In fact, 18 innings ended on a Freddie Freeman walk-off home run. Sometime next Tuesday, I believe, is when that actually ended. The day off today, though, was nice. I've been able to do some checking out of what the mainstream media, the legacy media, is saying about this series. They haven't really had a handle on this from the beginning. We talked about that a little bit, but what I'm noticing is it's being reported, Mark, and multiple venues, that in fact the Blue Jays are resilient. That's the word of the week, I guess.
Yeah.
And like now they don't have sourcing on this, so they're not willing to report it specifically, but they're heavily implying that the Blue Jays also don't back down. So that's the two kind of takeaways. I think that's the yep.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of baseball. There's been a lot of words. I know I sent you this last night after Game 5. I just want to make sure I have the words exactly right on the Athletic, New York Times Athletic employee, a paid baseball writer, right after Game 5, the Jays take the 3-2 lead in the series. Lucas Weiss, a man who was paid to analyze baseball, right? Runs scored in series through 5 games. Here is a comparison of the runs scored in the World Series. Toronto has an 11-run edge compared to Los Angeles. One of the reasons why the Blue Jays lead the World Series 3-2.
That's
9, Dodgers 18. I love it. Everybody's scrambling to try to find an angle, trying to find a narrative, trying to find. There's probably people in the clubhouses trying to talk to players, and this guy's like,
it's hardcore
scoreboard, and I'm gonna make it really long.
Listen, man, hardcore journalism at display there. I will say, or on display. I'm just gonna give people passes, though. I just think everybody's tired. Like this World Series. Listen, we do this show, okay? When I work and it's sports related, now I consider this work. I want it to be work. We are trying to build something here, but the NHL is my work. I watch all of these sports to do these shows. The basketball show starting in the next couple weeks. We're going to get hockey back going up again. We're trying to build something, but as far as money in my bank account, that comes from the NHL. So as a baseball fan, a Toronto fan, I am exhausted. Like I'm done, dude. Like and so if you're working the games, I can only imagine how those people feel. I will say, like, this has been, and I think, I can speak for everybody, whether you're a Blue Jays fan, a Dodgers fan, or just a baseball fan. In my recent memory, I don't remember a World Series like this, dude. Like maybe I'm just getting caught up in my fandom, but I honestly think that this is one of the better World Series that we have seen in a long time. There's just something like about it. I think, something that can be somewhat comparable, and not as far as the content of the actual series, but just like the narrative that I'm going to go on here. When the Rangers and the Diamondbacks faced off, those were two teams that you probably wouldn't, maybe the Rangers, but two teams that you wouldn't have really picked to be there at that time. Right. And I think that's what makes this so incredible is, and we've talked about it before, is the Dodgers were supposed to be here. The playoffs were not good enough for this team. They were supposed to be here right now, this moment, where the Blue Jays were supposed to be last place or very close to it. And what's amazing is that if you're a Toronto baseball fan or you're in the national media, you're covering the sport as a whole and not just one team, then you are watching what we've been watching since July. But if you're not one of those two things, you're just like, holy crap. Like what? The the Blue Jays are like really good. Like it's just, and I think there's just a part of that that's just made this just such a great World Series. And I'm interested on your thoughts about this because while Monday night ruined my life for the rest of the week, when it comes to just being a human being and having responsibilities, up until 4 a.m. and then at my job, 2.5 hours later. What I feel like that game, and I feel like this is a pretty popular narrative. I feel like that game impacted the Dodgers on a negative way as well. Because since that game, yes, they won it. Freddie Freeman walks it off. The games haven't been close. And it's something the Blue Jays just turned on another switch, and the Dodgers have been outplayed pretty dramatically over the last 2 games. And do you see it that way as just because don't get me wrong, the Blue Jays have deserved every ounce of those 12 runs that they've scored over the last 2 games, and they have deserved every ounce of the 2 wins that they have had since the loss in Game 3. That being said, the Dodgers just look just like the life's kind of been sucked from them a little bit. And I'm just curious your thoughts. Is that just the Blue Jays turning it on, or we can point back to that Game 3 marathon and say, hey, sure, the Blue Jays lost the game, but it's kind of a blessing in disguise.
I mean, resilient and they never back down, right? That's the
right.
That's the answers. But yeah, I mean that long game was 18 innings, right? They lost. The series could be over if they had won. And you're right. I mean, I think both teams came out in Game 4 looking pretty flat for a little while. And the Dodgers took the lead, and then Vladdy homered off of Ohtani. And then the Jays kind of kept going, and it looked like the Dodgers were just out of gas. I think both teams were out of gas, but having your big guys step up and kind of carry you a little bit earlier in the game was obviously a catalyst for the rest of the Jays, for their energy. And then in Game 5, yeah, I mean the Jays were just Trey Savage. I don't know what you can say about it, other than that was incredible. That was an incredible performance, leading off the game offensively with back-to-back home runs on the first 3 pitches of the game. I know Blake Snell was out today saying that luck plays a big role in baseball, and so he doesn't feel like they really got to him. Well, yeah. Fella, you gave up 5 runs in 5 innings last night after getting kind of smoked in Game 1 too. So that's a healthy dose of bad luck if you're not willing to admit that the Jays got to you. But yeah, Blake Snell didn't pitch on Monday in the 18-inning instant classic, but everybody else, I mean, all of their position players did. One of the things John Schneider tried to end that game early, right, with all the substitutions later in regulation in the first 9 innings. And so a number of the players on the team didn't play all 18 innings, right? Vladdy did for sure, but a lot of those guys didn't. They had kind of half games or full games each, right? Whereas the Dodgers were playing the full 18. So yeah, I'm sure that at no point until long after the World Series is over would the Dodgers ever make an excuse. The players are proud, they're professionals, they're not going to say that had an effect, and a number of the Jays had to play that full game. But yeah, it doesn't take a degree in kinesiology to think that maybe they were tired. Yep, that makes sense. And the Dodgers are. You mentioned this a little bit off air, but the Dodgers are on average an older team, right? One of the things about having such a star-studded roster is that you have older players too, right? And ligaments, tendons, etc. Your joints just get a little creakier as you get older. I don't know if you're aware of that yet, Mark. You're such a young man, but
I'm aware.
yeah, I suppose there probably is something to that to an extent. At this point of the year, everybody's on both teams is pretty banged up, right? They've played 170 plus games, these teams each, to get here. But yeah, I mean, you'd have to have your head in the sand to think that didn't have an effect. And the Jays, I mean, we make fun of it, but the resilience and the not backing down and the kind of plug and play versatility of parts of their lineup, to come back and to be in the situation they're in without George Springer because of that plug and play versatility in their lineup and stuff like that, right? It's extra impressive, and it's a dimension that the Dodgers don't really have, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you about Game 3, and I do think that it took a toll. I think that the Blue Jays, what we saw from Yasevich, I was confident in him last night. Was I confident that he was going to throw 12 Ks, go 7 deep? No. Not that I wasn't confident, but that wasn't even on my radar, right? I think what we saw
all-time great pitching performance from a rookie in his 8th start. Yeah, it wasn't on my radar either. You could be confident without being ridiculous, right? What he did was ridiculous.
Well, yeah, and I mean, what we saw from him against the Yankees was incredible. Since then, he's had good starts, but he's kind of fought through his stuff a little bit since then. And obviously, last night he was virtually untouchable, no walks on top of those 12 Ks. But I did think I was confident. I said this last night on the football show. We talked a little bit World Series after, and I did say that I liked the Jays last night. I thought they'd win last night. I liked the pitching matchup. I think, listen, Snell is a pro. He's an incredible pitcher. I think I expect, and he had overall, he pitched fine last night. Just the first 2 at bats, 2 of the first 3 pitches, they went out of the park. And then his bats just couldn't redeem him, right? But I thought he pitched okay. And it's the game plan that the Jays have had all postseason. I don't know, especially against the Dodgers, but including the Dodgers, is do what you can on those starters and get to the bullpen. And I think that the strategy that the Jays have already to begin with was kind of illuminated by the fact of what happened on Monday night, right? I don't think anything changed. I just think that really helped. That being said, what we're seeing from the Dodgers bats right now, yes, we can look back to Game 3 and we can say, older team, everything you said, and I would agree with you. Listen, I'm closer to 40 than I am 30, and I don't take care of myself. So the fact that my body hurts all the time is, not exactly surprising. But I can only imagine what those guys are going through right now. That being said, like the Dodgers bats haven't been that great for the whole postseason.
No,
right?
They haven't. They've relied on their pitching to get them everywhere. Their pitching hasn't been as dominant in the World Series, save the Yamamoto game,
right?
As it had been otherwise. And yeah, I mean, we talked about it in the preview to the World Series, right? How much of what they did to the Brewers was the Brewers not showing up, and how much of it was just incredible pitching. And I think we landed on it's probably somewhere in the middle, right? They are incredible pitchers, but also the Brewers didn't play their best baseball in that series. And we're seeing, I think it's starting to lean a little bit more the other direction, right? The Jays have leaned into their identity at the plate, their collective identity at the plate. Their big fella has kept it going, right? That's consecutive days with home runs for Vlad Guerrero Jr. And it's been incredible to watch. It's also been machine-like to watch. There are the majestic moments, right? The two leading off with back-to-back jacks in the first inning yesterday. That's a pretty majestic moment, right? The Vladdy home run off Shohei, and the photograph of that, which I've seen all over the internet. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. Was Shohei turning back to watch the ball leave the yard as Vlad is tracking the ball as it sails over the left field fence. Those are pretty great moments, but a lot of it's just been, oh, here's Andres Jimenez again, going to make contact because that's what he does. You know, here's Ernie Clement making another good play on the bases. You know, here's David Schneider working a walk. You know, like these are just the sort of Jays doing Jays things that maybe don't always fit on a poster. But if you've watched this team since they really turned it around mid-June, it's just stuff that you're very used to watching, right? How many times we've seen Dalton Varsho casually scoop what could easily have been a double, you know, in the power alley in left or right center field, or how often we've seen them turn a double play to end an inning on a tough ball up the middle or something like that. You know, like just how many blocks and how much confidence does what Kirk does in blocking pitches behind the plate, how much confidence it gives pitchers to spike one in front of him because they know he's going to get to it. How many times we actually see him get to one, right? You can't really quantify that. And again, it doesn't make for the coolest highlights. It doesn't fill up a box score like Shohei Ohtani's game 2 does, but they're winning plays that contribute to a team that just keeps playing for each other. And I don't know, we keep hearing about it, but it's true, right? And we can watch it, and we've seen it play out since June, and now even on the biggest stage that there is.
Well, and you know, because like we follow the Blue Jays, we can kind of lean into the Blue Jays angle of this, and I feel like most of the people who watch this channel are from the States. And so I feel like, yes, on the one side, it's like, okay, like Blue Jays fans, we get it. But on the other side, I feel like it is kind of helpful to understand the context of this. There are lots of people on this roster that you feel great for, right? And we could run through a list of like everybody, right? We could go through the list. You know, IKF hasn't been terrific offensively. However, he has had some key moments behind the plate that have helped the Jays win ball games. The two people that, if you're going to, you know, it's obvious to say Vladdy, to say Yasevich. It's obvious Scherzer. That video clip going viral of him just being so fired up last night in the dugout and throwing whatever that was, sunflower seeds or whatever. Like, I just love it. There's all these guys like Bo Bichette not playing since whatever it was, September 7th, I think, or 6th, and being a legitimate contributor so far in the World Series. There's so many guys, John Schneider, but two guys that have really stuck out to me from last night. Well, one of the guys from last night specifically, and then another guy just overall. The first one would be what you said, David Schneider. I when he came up with the Blue Jays, it was like his first series, he hit like 4 home runs and something nuts. And he's been okay in the playoffs, but hasn't really had that moment. And for him to be lead off because Springer's hurt, he came off the bench, but he wasn't starting. For him to be like lead off, smoke a home run first pitch, I was super happy for him because he hasn't really put his name on this postseason really yet so far. That was really cool to watch. And then like Dalton Varsho, dude, like he was, I don't know, like enemy number 1 might be a little bit dramatic, but the Jays trading Marino for him and him being an like offensive black hole for the majority of his time with the Blue Jays. Yes, superstar center fielder. We get it. But as far as behind the plate goes, not very good at all for his first few years. You know, battled some injuries or whatever. He had a really good season, but in this postseason, man, like, you remember like the first couple of years he was here, it was like this, every time he got up to the plate, like he's getting out. Like that was just the vibe. Like this guy's getting out, and that's not the way it is anymore. And he's had a terrific postseason. And like you said, making plays defensively, which is what he is relied on to do. His bat is a bonus, but his defense is why they got him. But I've been super impressed with what he's brought to the table.
Yeah, when he came here, right? I mean, and that trade, Gabriel Moreno and Lourdes Gurriel for Dalton Varsho was a part of was also part of trading Teoscar Hernandez to the Mariners for for relief pitching and signing Kevin Kiermaier with the money that they saved, right?
Yeah.
That was all kind of it was multiple transactions, but they were all obviously part of the same thing. They wanted to lean heavily into run prevention, and so through no fault of his own, Dalton Varsho shows up in Toronto, and the narrative about him is this is what Atkins is doing to our team, right? So it's not his fault. He didn't ask to do that. I'm sure he would love to be teammates with Teoscar Hernandez or Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I'm sure he prefers playing with guys who can hit, right? But that wasn't up to him. And so he became kind of an avatar that we had to watch out in center field. Make great plays all the time for sure. But also run the bases conservatively. He's an excellent base runner, never makes a mistake, but he's a conservative base runner. And also, he strikes out a lot and he doesn't get on base very much at all, and when you're hitting 210, 220 as he was, the occasional power didn't really do anything to change the minds of the people who were watching the team, who missed the really good offensive teams that we'd had previously, right? When Marcus Semien was in Toronto, when Teo was there, when Gurriel was there, when that was a murderer's row that led the league in scoring. And so, yeah, that was the vibe, right? Like, oh, here comes Dalton Varsho to strike out again. This year, he's been injured mostly, but and he's still not getting on base very much. His average is very low, but he's hitting home runs at the same per plate appearance rate as Cal Raleigh did. So, that I think people will take that. And the most important part is, of course, the Jays are winning. They're not relying on him at the top of the order to be a huge producer because he was injured a great deal. He hits lower in the order now. Do we have other guys who are carrying more of the weight? And so his power that he does display really is more of a bonus, right? And he's come up clutch in a lot of these games. Wind up being close, right? And so everybody's contributions, whenever they happen, tend to wind up being remembered very fondly because they're all clutch, right? When every run matters, it doesn't matter when you score it. They're all big deal. And Varsho's been fantastic this postseason. He's still streaky, right? He goes on little jags where he can't make contact. He'll strike out with a runner on third and one out. We've seen it in this series, but he'll also put wood on the ball when you need him to sometimes, and he's saved a bunch of runs in center field, which can't be forgotten. There's other guys on the team too, right, who came, and there's so much antipathy from the fan base towards Shapiro and Atkins. I think we all know what the abbreviated name for those two is in Jay's universe. But there are other guys. I mean, Miles Straw has made a lot of enormous contributions this year in a quieter way, right? As a defensive replacement, mostly as a guy who you can call on to lay down an effective sack bunt, as a pinch runner, and again as a defensive replacement anywhere in the outfield, and a guy who filled in really admirably for Varsho during his multiple injury absences. He was a punchline when he came to Toronto, right? Toronto got him along with international bonus pool money for the price of paying his contract to the Cleveland Guardians. He was supposed to help push them over the top to be able to sign Roki Sasaki. That was the reported and clear intent of trading for him, with 2 years and $11 million left on his contract. A guy who had been buried in AAA last year by the Guardians, right? He was a punchline. He made the team essentially out of spring training. He essentially made the team because of Varsho's injury problems, coming off the wrist injury from last year, or shoulder, whatever it was. And then he's been up with the big club all year long, despite the fact that they're paying the competitive balance tax, and getting him off the roster would have saved them a lot of money, because the contributions that he's made were pretty invaluable to the team, right? Quieter contributions, not a lot of home runs, but a steady guy who's obviously been a big part, and that's why you see him on the field in the ninth inning and every Jays win. That's why he's out there, because he's a huge part.
He's like a super reliable defender, which is kind of what Ross Atkins' staple has been on this team, and kind of what they've tried to do is defense first and offense second.
The old run prevention.
Yeah, and like what's hilarious, dude, because I'm trying to be careful, whether it's on this platform or other platforms or just in my daily life talking, baseball with people, is I'm trying to be careful about how carried away I get with this sentiment of what I'm about to say, because this is the classic case of the series feels over. At least to me, the series feels over. We're one win away. It is not over. There is a lot. And I think because of the decisiveness, you beat the Dodgers in the last 2 games, 12-3. Your starting pitching's lights out. All of the stuff that we've already talked about. It feels over, and it's not. I think tomorrow night's pitching matchup is what you want if you're the Jays, right? You have Gausman coming to the mound. Yamamoto, you want to think, okay, no way he can throw 3 straight complete games, right? And all that. And we'll talk game 6 before the show's over. You're just talking about Ross Atkins. And again, for the American viewers, my apologies in advance, everybody watching on Total Apex Media. We appreciate you. I'm just a little Blue Jays fodder for you here for a minute. I hate Ross Atkins. The conflict in my heart and my soul and my mind, the whiplash that I am going through on the inside, you cannot dispute it. Like, this is a Ross Atkins creation. What we're seeing right now, this is almost entirely, there's definitely Vladdy was brought here before he got here. And that's it. Yeah, right. That's it. Trey Savage, what we're seeing right now from him, he was literally drafted last year, which means that it could have only been Ross Atkins who brought him here, right? And it's so funny, dude, because the way he talks to the media over his last 10 years here, I think is incredibly tone deaf, and I don't like it. I think he's patronizing the way he talks to the fan base. I think that he speaks in not even riddles, just like, when like your mom texts you and is like, hey, can you put out the garbage for me? But she sends you like a whole novel about the things that she has to do that night and why she's so busy and why the day she has tomorrow and why she can't put the garbage out. You know what I mean? Where all you have to say is, hey, Mark, can you put the garbage out? Or hey, Tom, can you put the garbage out? Whether it's your mom, your girlfriend, your wife, whoever. But she also has to tell you, so I'm getting home from work and I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this. And tomorrow morning's really busy and I got to do this. But could you take the garbage out for me because of all this? When all you have to say is, can you take the garbage out? That's what Ross Atkins is. Just a lot of just gibberish. Just all he's saying is one thing, or he's saying nothing.
Yeah, I mean, you said it before. He's the human embodiment of the terms and conditions on your Apple update. You want, when as soon as he opens his mouth, you start scrolling down, looking for the box that you can check at the end to make it go away.
Yeah, dude, and it's so hard for me to acknowledge the fact. I want to, if the Jays lose in 7 games, I want to sit in this chair and say, fire him. Fire this guy. Look what happened. There's nothing you can do but tip your cap. And we said this at the beginning of the playoffs, in the playoff preview. We said this. I refuse to believe that last offseason, when he said that he believes that this team can make it to the World Series, I refuse to believe that he actually believed that, right? However, the players that are on the field because of him, and you can do nothing but tip your cap and say, dude, well done. Mark Shapiro, I have nothing wrong with him. The guy is doing a lot for the stadium and a lot for the business, and I don't care about that. But Ross Atkins, listen, man, you got to tip your cap to it. And all of these players, it's just amazing, man. Like from Barger to Clement to like Jimenez, like you said, to like the list goes on, like Savage, like what we saw from Bieber in game 4. Bieber's a really good pitcher, and I think moving forward, he's going to be really good. But the fact that he just came back from surgery in August, I still don't really know what to expect from him. And right. That's nothing about him as a pitcher. He just hasn't pitched in over a year, and he's still coming back, really, right? And what we saw from him was just, it's just, and so, yeah, nothing you can do but tip your cap to the guy that I really want fired, even though we're 1 win away from winning the World Series.
Right. Yep. We don't need to get any deeper into the Atkins thing. Let's not sully the good mood and the good vibes by thinking about the other people that it will make happy, you know?
I just want to say,
bad enough for me that Leafs fans are enjoying this.
Well, dude, so a couple things. I got like different things to get to, but a couple quick things. Number 1, and keep your answer short and sweet because Brady's in the chat and I want to comment on what Brady's talking about. Who is more grateful right now for the Blue Jays in the World Series, the Raptors or the Leafs? Nobody else cares about us, so we'll keep this short and sweet. Who is happier? Because both those teams suck right now.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good point. Both teams are probably enjoying
probably the Raptors though, right? Giving up 130 every night.
Yeah, maybe. Or I mean, the Leafs who've just been an embarrassment for a decade straight in what should have been there in this era of dominance or whatever, the Shanaplan. And what's your American captain's name again? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So a few different things here. Brady. First of all, Brady, I got a beef with you, bro. You've been bugging me to get on TikTok, and I'm on TikTok now, and I haven't seen you add me. So as a follower, so you know where to find me. Literally TikTok. I'm there now. So come hang out. A few things. If the Blue Jays win the World Series, it's all of Canada's World Series. I love this guy from Vancouver. Has to let everybody know this is the whole country's, not just yours, Toronto. And it makes me happy to see a country that hates my city love the Blue Jays. It's really quite ironic, and I do love it. If the Blue Jays lose, then I really think Toronto is cursed. Listen, bro, the fact that Toronto is here is a miracle. I shouldn't say miracle, but it's crazy. I will say this. If before the series started, I really did think, and we talked about this, I really did think that this series would be long. I thought that there was a good chance that the Blue Jays could win this series. I wasn't predicting anything, but I felt very strongly that this was going 6 or 7 games. I really did feel like it was going to be very competitive, and it has been. However, if the Blue Jays did lose in 5 games, I would have tipped my cap and said, what an amazing run. Now that we're here, though, I will be my heart will be ripped out of my throat if they find a way to lose this series. But this isn't cursed, brother. This is still the Dodgers, man. They're the Dodgers for a reason. They literally defending World Series champions, and this series is not over. It's gonna be a grind. Whether it ends tomorrow or Saturday, it's gonna be a grind. Before we get to Brady's next comment, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we said if it was a short series, it probably didn't bode well for the Jays. Just looking at it when we were previewing it, if the answer was that the reason that they were able to dispatch the Brewers so quickly was that their pitching was just so dominant, and it really looked like that might have actually just be the case, right? Especially with their low innings pitch totals coming into the World Series. Maybe these guys are just pitching that well that if it was going to be a short series, that it probably bode pretty well for LA and not so well for Toronto. And yeah, the longer the series goes, obviously, the more looks the Jays get at a weaker Dodgers bullpen, the more looks they get. A second look at Blake Snell, who they roughed up in Game 1, but then roughed up again in Game 5, and then they'll get another look at Yamamoto, who they certainly did not rough up in Game 2, but they get another look at him tomorrow, and then Glasnow and so on, right? If it goes that way, but yeah, even with last night's game being kind of the most dominant performance anybody's had so far this series, from the beginning to end, it's still a very close series. It's not. I know you said it sort of feels like it's over. I entirely disagree. It doesn't feel like it's over at all. The Jays just won Game 6 and 7, and granted they were at home to do that against the Mariners. But the Dodgers, the Dodgers don't care about home field advantage. And the Dodgers didn't care about home field advantage last year when they were down a game in the wild card round against, or in the divisional round, whatever it was, against the Padres, and they won the last 2 games of that series to take that series and move on, ultimately winning the World Series later last fall. So, and it's the same team. They're good. The other thing though, I mean, there's an air of inevitability about the Dodgers that some teams seem to go and they play them. And we talked about this way back in the Phillies series. It seemed like that series looked like it was going to be pretty evenly matched, a lot of star players. And then the Phillies got on the field in Game 1 and it was like, oh, they don't think they can win. The Phillies didn't. I don't think the Phillies went into that series. They stepped on the field thinking we're going to lose this series, and they did. And then we saw what happened with the Brewers, right? Yeah, poor Reds. That nobody even remembers that series happened.
Yeah, feels like forever ago, bro. This has been a marathon.
Well, and it was awful quick too. I mean, that was like the last 3 Jays playoff appearances under the Shapiro and Atkins regime, where you get to write down on a sticky note that you were in the wild card round, but you weren't there long enough to charge your phone long enough to take a picture.
I guess, absolutely. And I guess, like, to me, I think the reason why it feels like it's over, and I don't mean that entirely the way that it sounds, it's just like the vibes, and maybe this is because I'm just in Toronto. I think like the vibes here, it's just like, I don't know. Those 2 games. So that's kind of why I think it feels like, maybe this is the way to say it. It feels like people here feel like it's over, and I'm just cautioning against that. Now, would this be bigger than the Raptors championship? And the answer to that, and Brady, if you followed me on TikTok, you would have seen my thoughts on this already. But I'm just bugging you, bro. The answer is yes. I really do think so. Curious to hear your thoughts on this, Tom. For me, yes, the Raptors championship was the first championship in Raptors history. Fair enough. But the Jays have 2. The last one, I mean, they were back to back. The last one was 32 years ago. But that's fair that the Raptors championship was their first. However, to me, the context of the moment is really important. I think the Raptors from 2013, we'll say 2014 to 2019 when they won, they were a very, very, very good regular season team. They were winning 52 games plus every single year. They were going to either the semis or the conference finals every year. And the only reason why they didn't go beyond that was because they faced a Cleveland Cavaliers team that had a guy that my son refers to as LeBron James. And when they got Kawhi and LeBron wasn't a part of the playoff picture, they had to win that year. They literally got Kawhi to win. That's why they got him, was to get over the hump and win. And don't get me wrong, it was a well-deserved championship, but the injury gods kind of went their way, right? With Durant going down, with Thompson going down. So they had to win. The context of this Blue Jays team is whatever is the 100% opposite of that is what this is. When AA left in 2015 and the Blue Jays made it to the ALCS with the remnants of that club in 2016, it's been dark days here ever since. And even when they made it to the playoffs, they choked away that one series against the Mariners, and then against the Twins, they weren't even competitive. They were abysmal last year, and even the year that they got to the playoffs to face the Twins, they were bad that year too. They just kind of got in by default. The fact that they're here right now, if they win this championship, it is 1,000% bigger than the Raptors championship, and that's not to diminish what the Raptors did. But I just think that the context of the moment is just huge. I would also say really quickly, just to wrap this up and let you chime in, Tom, is that the Blue Jays blood, I'm not going to word this properly, it just runs deeper. The Blue Jays just run deeper here. People love the Raptors. The Raptors are Toronto's team. Diehard fans, the building is packed every night, win or lose. Even with them sucking for the last couple of years, that stadium's still full. But the Blue Jays just run deeper. They've been here since the 70s. It's just a deeper love for this team than it is for the Raptors. And not that we don't love the Raptors, it's just different.
Yeah, I mean, these two teams are different from any other team because they are the national teams. They're located in Toronto. It says Toronto on the jersey, but they're both national teams. If you're a basketball guy, right? If you're a basketball person, the Raptors championship is one of the biggest things that's happened, right? And it was a weird culmination of a crazy era. The We the North era was amazing. People still remember it. These are teams that, there's no team in Seattle anymore, but there would be Raptors fans going down to watch the Raptors, like basketball people in Canada going down to see the Raptors when the Supersonics come back. There are Raptors fans who go down to Minnesota, to the Twin Cities to watch whenever the Raptors are playing against the Wolves. There are any of the border cities, right? The Detroit Pistons, when the Raptors go and play the Pistons, Detroit's arena is half full of Raptors fans. And just as the same is the case with the Jays, even at places that aren't close to or border towns, right? Every Canadian who's a basketball person in the States will go and represent the Raptors when they go. There are a lot of expats living in Atlanta, living in Charlotte, living in wherever, and they'll all show up at Raptors games the same way that they do for the Jays. So it really depends. I think it's context dependent for you, which sport is more important to you, whether you have connections to the basketball community in your community, because if you're part of Basketball Manitoba, you're part of the Raptors are also a huge part of Canada basketball, right? RJ Barrett is the son of Rowan Barrett. Rowan Barrett is the head of Canada basketball. All of the Canada basketball stuff happens at the OVO Center, which is the Raptors practice court. They're as big in Canada basketball as anything. But if you're a baseball person, obviously the Jays are bigger, right? I'm both, right? I'm a baseball basketball guy. I like to make fun of the Leafs just because I enjoy teasing you, but I don't really. I mean, I don't get. My heart doesn't race one way or the other when something happens on the ice. Football is fine enough to watch, but it's a baseball basketball thing to me. So, which is bigger? Yeah, for me, probably baseball. It's 6 months of every single day. This season is happening in my living room. It's part of my daughter's life for her entire life, right? She's known the voice of Hazel May. She's known the voice of Jamie Campbell. She's known the voice of, these are just the sounds of the good part of the year, the half of the year that it isn't painful to be outside. It's happening right now. Ask me if the Raptors go now on, and it would be an equally Cinderella-like run for the Raptors to go deep in the playoffs this year compared to what our expectations of them are right now. It would be equally as Cinderella-like compared to our expectations for this Blue Jays team was like, I hope they can still be in the wild card hunt at the beginning of September. Well, yeah, they kind of blew that out of the water already, right? So yeah, I mean, it's just huge. I don't know. I don't love cross sport comparisons just because like sports is part of. I don't think sports culture is separate from culture. It's just part of culture, you know. And if you're part of a community that cares about stuff, yeah, basketball,
Yeah,
if that's your community, then that's the thing. And if baseball's part of your community, then that's your thing. And
I think how
they're both amazing.
yeah, I think how I like personally take the question, and maybe it's just the context in my own head, is that as somebody from Toronto, if I'm thinking about like Toronto sports moments, I get razzed all the time. I'm a massive uh Philadelphia sports fan, and I'm
Yeah,
not from Philadelphia, right?
right.
So people, razz me like, you're not from Philly, you don't know, blah blah blah. And I'm not razzing anybody. I'm just saying, like my father-in-law is early 60s and he's a diehard Raptors fan. I don't know anybody who's a bigger basketball fan than my father-in-law. I think that's an outlier though. I think a lot of Raptors fans are either young or in our age, right? 30s, 40s, maybe early 50s, where like baseball, like there's Blue Jays fans in their 80s who have season tickets, right? Like
Yeah.
there's just it just runs deeper. But yeah, Brady, thank you for spurring on that conversation. That's a good conversation for sure. All right, before we wrap up the show, move on with the rest of our evening. I get to watch hockey, which my bosses at the Hockey Writers are happy that I'll be actually contributing for once in the last 3 weeks or 2 weeks, so that'll be nice for them. Let's talk game 6. Game 6, Yamamoto Gosman in Toronto tomorrow night. Halloween, 8 p.m. What's your take on tomorrow night, man? I think if we're talking the context of the whole series, I really do feel strongly the Blue Jays are going to close this out. There's lots of reasons for that. But if we're talking specifically the context of tomorrow night, what do you feel about tomorrow night's game? Yamamoto Gosman, game 6 in Toronto.
Yeah, the Yamamoto start in game 2 was incredible. We'll, regardless of how this series ends, we'll remember the Yamamoto game 2 start. We'll remember the 18-inning game 3. We'll remember that kind of stuff. It also completely overshadows how incredibly good Kevin Gosman was in game 2 as well.
It does. And let's just, sorry, Tom, really quickly, just to say that both teams now have had starts by pitchers where you can critique the offense all you want, but you got to just tip your hat, right? Yeah. Like both Yosevich last night and Yamamoto game 2, both those starts, each team has had one where you just got to tip your cap.
Yeah. Yamamoto was incredible. Gosman gave up the back-to-back home runs in, what was it, 6th or 7th inning?
Seventh, yeah.
Yeah,
he had a great start.
It changed it, but that had been a great pitching duel. Gosman giving up fewer hits up to that point, the Jays bullpen is a little bit healthier, I think, at this point. Has a little bit more juice left in it at this point than the Dodgers does. Gosman is exactly who you'd want on the mound if you're the Blue Jays. They couldn't have drawn this up any better, right? A day off in between games, and Chris Bassett will be ready to go. Who knew Chris Bassett, multi-hitting, high leverage weapon as a reliever out of the bullpen? Incredible. The Jays bats have been hotter. It's baseball. Everything turns on a dime all the time. Things have turned on a dime several times in this series already. After game 1, it seemed like the Jays were going to roll. That was all the narrative that was being pushed by everybody. After game 2, now the Dodgers were favored heavily. After game 3, the Dodgers were extraordinarily heavily favored right after the 18-inning affair, and then now the Jays are favorite. I don't know what the line is. I know Fangraphs now, finally, Fangraphs has this as the Jays are 66.3% favorites to win, Dodgers 33.7.
Oh, The Blue Jays to win the series. Yeah, the Blue Jays to win the series minus 240. Dodgers plus 198. Toronto plus 120 to win tomorrow night. The Dodgers are minus 142. So the Blue Jays still yet to be favored in an actual game by game basis. Just to quickly throw this out here, Tom, before you continue, for the Blue Jays to win the series in 7 is plus 300. So if you want to throw money on the Jays, like beyond, like if you think the Jays win tomorrow night, then the plus 120 is obviously the play here. This is not rocket science when it comes to that. You forget about the minus 240 and you play the plus 120 if you think the series ends tomorrow. But if you feel strongly that the Jays win in 7, then plus 300 is pretty good value when it's minus 240 to win the series.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think for tomorrow, with Gausman on the mound, the Dodgers made their lineup change yesterday. They moved Will Smith up in the order to hit second behind Shohei Ohtani, moving Mookie Betts just down one spot. Now that's partly because Savage, in his very short career to date, which is 7 starts before last night, has reverse splits, meaning he gets left-handers out more effectively than right-handers. So going left, right in front of Freeman was probably part of the calculus there. But they made that move and it didn't help. Will Smith has been their best hitter overall in the World Series. He and Max Muncy, I suppose, with the exception of one outlier Shohei game. It does have after everything I said about it not feeling like it's over, it just kind of feels like the Dodgers are going to need to dig deeper, and we're going to have to see something out of their offense that we just haven't seen. Certainly in the World Series and not even really in the playoffs at all. They've been playing a lot of close games, and the Jays are they're built for close games. The Jays don't make the kind of mistakes that the Dodgers are not. They don't play the cleanest baseball, right? You're starting Teoscar Hernandez in the field. You're starting some guys who are a little bit error prone, and you can't. I have to say it, right? That the home field advantage is real. Rogers Center is a real advantage, and you've seen it throughout the year. The Jays went 54-27 during the regular season, and they've similarly been very strong at home in the playoffs. They obviously came back against the Mariners on the road, but won the last 2 at home to close that out after winning both their games against the Yankees on home field. I just think the Jays win. I think the game probably looks somewhere between what games 4 and game 5 looked like. It'll be close for a while, but I think the Jays win it. We'll call it 6-3. I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
Well, it's funny because there's, both sides of this you can go on, right? I think, you're talking about like the defense, like, Mookie Betts has taken on shortstop and has been really good at it. He looked human, right, yesterday, right? Last night was one of his probably worst games, and it was just a couple, plays here and there. Overall, I think what is positive and negative, if you're looking at this from a Blue Jays angle, is that this has been a down season for Betts. He was incredibly sick before the season started. And that just kind of trickled into his whole season. He hasn't been himself, and that's just been it, right? Mookie Betts, by the way, Mookie Betts is my favorite baseball player. If we're just talking right now in the league, he's my favorite. I love watching him play. He's my favorite, and I'm not saying all time, don't get crazy. I'm just saying right now, Mookie Betts is my favorite baseball player. This season's not been a good one for him, and that's just a fact. Freeman,
he'll be back next year, though. I mean, it's Mookie Betts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Freeman has had his moments in the postseason, but not really. It hasn't been overly great. There's a lot to say about this offense, man. It's been Shohei. Will Smith has come alive a little bit. Teoscar has had his moments. Still miss that guy in a Blue Jays uniform. hate seeing him in the Dodger blue rather than the Blue Jays blue. I love this team, but I would love it for Teoscar to still be here and be a part of this, but that's another conversation. So on the one hand, this offense needs, like, that's what all the pressure is on, the offense of the Dodgers. On the other hand, these are all players that are more than capable of taking over a series. And so you got to wonder, like, is this it? Are they just going to get rolled on and they just won't have it? Or is this offense finally going to wake up when the lights are the brightest and steal back this series? And I think both of those situations are extremely plausible. So that's the one thing. The other thing that concerns me from a Blue Jays perspective, and I'll just get to the end before I even explain the rest of it, I do think the Blue Jays find a way to win tomorrow night. I do. I don't, like, Yamamoto is a freak of nature. He's the best pitchers that the Dodgers have. To go 3 complete games back to back, if the Jays can keep this close, which I think they will, I have zero concern about Gausman. This bullpen has been terrific, which kind of, I don't want to say it shocks me, but it's been a pleasant surprise to say the least. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about the Blue Jays when it comes to their pitching or their defense. Can they get to Yamamoto and keep this game close? Once that bullpen comes in, I like the Blue Jays to do what they've done all postseason long and take over in the 6th or 7th inning. However, now correct me if I'm wrong here, Tom, but the only close win that I can remember that the Blue Jays have had that has been by less than 3 runs is Game 7 against the Mariners. Other than that, the Blue Jays have won every game rather convincingly, and that concerns me, just from the sheer fact that you would have to think that eventually in the World Series, they're going to have to win a game by 1 run, right? Like, you would just think that would probably happen, and they haven't been able to win close games. Every close game has gone the other way. Now, to be fair, a lot of their losses have been by 2 or more runs as well, right? So it's kind of gone both ways. But I just think that this Blue Jays team, something, like I said earlier in the show, blessing in disguise, that 7-hour marathon. I think something just clicked after that, and I do think that the Blue Jays win. I do think they find a way to win tomorrow night. Now, if they lose, which is always a possibility, especially when, like, the odds say it's a rather good possibility. I much prefer our pitching matchup on Saturday night than what the Dodgers have to offer. So I'm not concerned about the series as a whole, but I do think the Blue Jays find a way to close it out.
Yep.
All right. Amazing. Great show. Just a little over an hour, ending it out in fashion. Everybody, as always, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I have no idea. We will be back. I don't know if it'll be Monday, Sunday. I don't know. We'll figure it out. The baseball shows we've been kind of doing on the fly, but we will be back Sunday or Monday to break down the World Series. Moving forward, just to kind of let everybody know, watching on Total Apex and on my channel, kind of what's going to happen moving forward. Monday, we will be talking World Series, or Sunday. And then Tom is going to join me every other week to talk basketball. The plan was to have basketball, hockey, baseball, football all rolling at once, but that's just not feasible. That's just not feasible for me right now. So that's just not going to happen. However, when the World Series is over, We will be talking basketball every other week with Tom, and then I will have rotating guests every other week talking about the NHL, and we will continue our Wednesday NFL show. So that's kind of the game plan moving forward, and maybe we'll check in a couple times throughout the winter and talk some baseball, and we'll see what happens there. Next time you guys are back. What's that?
Hot stove.
That's right. Next time you guys are back will be when they win the World Series. Was that meant to be a question? Yeah, I think it will be, Brady. I think it will be. Awesome. So yeah, everybody, thank you so much as always for hanging out with us. We appreciate it so much. Like I said, check me out on TikTok now, YouTube, like, subscribe, all that good stuff on my Twitter, and of course Total Apex as well. If you are watching on a platform that is not one of those three, go to two of those three. Follow, like, subscribe, whatever it is that platform prompts you to do. Once again, the show is brought to you by First Round Collectibles, promo code SPORTS10 for 10% off any card in the entire store and up to 60% off selected cards due to an ongoing sale that First Round Collectibles is always pumping out. Promo code SPORTS10, First Round Collectibles. Also, Total Apex Sports, Total Apex Media, Total Apex Sports, self-explanatory. Every sport you want to know, they have you covered. Sports betting, fantasy, DFS, all that good stuff. Shout out to them. We'll see you when it's all over. Until then, have a great weekend.